Beltalowda Comic-Con International Education Series crowd. Welcoming good Kopeng me, or welcome my friends to the Expanse crew, where tonight we discuss being your best protomolecule, lessons for the classroom from the Expanse. I'm your host, Dr. Scott Jordan, aka Zombie Scotty, cognitive psychologist, philosopher at Illinois State University. We are the Expanse crew, and fellow members of the crew, please introduce yourselves and say a little something about who you are, as well as who your favorite character in the Expanse might be. And we will start with Sister J.
I'm Sister J. The J is for Jennifer. I am one of the co-producers of the Sister Speak Productions podcast universe. Yeah, we have a universe. And in my other life, I am a retired lawyer and a crime fiction novelist. And with that in mind, my favorite character is Amos. I love Amos. And I think he has shown one of the most character growths in the whole series.
It's fantastic. By the way, I would much rather go through Ringgate into the Sister Speak universe than into the Laconia universe, where they're messing with.
No, we won't have any little dogs.
You won't have any dogs running around. Okay. No,
or no unruly children either.
No unruly children.
No, she spanks. So
irresponsible parents, all that mess. How about you, Leandra?
I'm Leandra Paris. I'm an assistant professor and coordinator of school psychology at William and Mary. And my favorite character, if you cannot tell, is Christian.
Fantastic. Now, how about you, Sister K?
I am Sister K, aka Kelsey, and I am also one of the co-creators and producers of the Sister Speak production series of podcasts and other content. I have several favorite characters, but I think I'm, of course, mostly drawn to Christian and Drummer.
Fantastic. I'm sure we'll be spending a lot of time talking about all of them. And I really like this idea of the Sister Speak Productions universe. I just, you got the MCU, why not have the Sister Speak universe? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about our favorite characters and try to talk about the protomolecule as a metaphor, if you like, for the notion of change and the unknown. Talk about our favorite character arcs and how those characters met this notion of unpredictability or change. And then maybe, if we feel the audience has earned it, maybe we'll say a little something about our own lived lives. So look, the crew told me I had to go first, so I'm going to go first. I'm going to talk about Joe Miller. There's a story here that I absolutely love. Joe Miller, of course, as you all know, is a belter who works for an Earther police force that is set up on Ceres to basically try to keep the peace among the belters. He can't stand being a belter. He dresses like a 1940s Earth detective, hence the fedora, and he just doesn't fit anywhere. And then throughout the story, he gets this case where he's supposed to track down this young woman, Julie Mao, find out she's missing or find out where she's gone. And it's through his work trying to find her that we find this idea of the protomolecule. And what I love about that story is here you have a guy who never felt like he belonged anywhere. So his identity was never one that let him just float. He couldn't just be in the moment and feel relaxed and nostalgic and full of love and security. Instead, he just constantly felt on edge. At least that's what we were shown, right? And then he finds he's put on this case where this young woman who comes from extreme wealth on Earth has actually taken massive risks to help his people, the Belters, whom he is trying not to be. And in the end, when she, through her efforts, from that incredible shower scene, right, which is basically horror movie quality stuff, when he then finds her on Ceres, and she's totally protomoleculed, right? You can't tell exactly what she is. He just finds himself falling in love. And it's not falling in love with a woman. It's falling in love with a woman's mission, right? In a mission that he never had the courage to engage in, even though it was his people, right? And at the end, she just, in this bizarre proto-molecule states, I just want to go home. She doesn't really know who or what she is right now. And basically, to paraphrase, he says, no, baby, we got to go to Venus, right? We can't do, and they go to Venus, and he ends up dying. And we see him later as part of the proto-molecule. But this idea that this guy had lived a life that was cynical, right? Where he never felt like he belonged. All of his assumptions about the reality in life was that it was negative, that it was bad. Finally found something that let him believe in something, and then followed it to the point of his death. I mean, he had his vision quest. I found the entire story incredibly satisfying, and I wish he'd made an appearance in the final season. So what do you guys think about Miller?
Well, I agree that he had identity issues, but I don't know.
But
I felt like, I do agree also, what drew him to her was the fact that she was privileged and rich and could do anything in their universe, and she chose to help, of which he didn't appear to me to be very helpful. I think he was very torn between, because he was law enforcement. He was a Belter law enforcer. And by his interactions with the other Belters, he felt like, I think, diminished from that. He tried to project that I'm the boss, you do what I say, I know everything and where to go and what to do. But I think around other Belters, he felt inferior. And so therefore, I know we discussed once about, well, why did he, like at the end, he kissed Julie and then he was absorbed with the protomolecule. And I think that's probably why, in my mind anyway.
No, as a form of thank you, or is that what you're saying? Like
as a form of release.
Yeah,
I can release.
Absolutely.
I can release all of this, whether it's the guilt, angst about I'm a Belter, but I hate all them other ones.
Right.
Know?
And he does know that he's about to die, right? So he is kind of on his deathbed with her, literally. And
he knows that.
He knows that. Absolutely. Sister J, why don't you tell us who your favorite character was, their arc, and what that can teach us?
Okay, well, my favorite character is Amos. First of all, he's really cute. That was the first thing. Really good looking.
He is actually a very good looking.
I mean, he's
young man.
Really good looking. Yeah. Let's be real, ladies.
I'm going to say better with the beard. What do you think?
Yes.
Better with the beard.
I like him either way.
Okay.
I mean, clean shaven, he was pretty cute, but with the beard, he looks really good too. Okay, let's get off of the physical. But anyway, I really like how he is portrayed with his bond with Naomi is how we first meet him. And he is totally, for whatever reason, we don't know, bonded to her. It's kind of like a little puppy. You know, like when you go walk your dog and tell them, okay, go in the grass, you know. A
very strong puppy.
Very strong puppy. He was like that. Right. And then we see him slowly through all the seasons change. And I think it started happening once they found out, or once Holden answered that distress call, and that whole thing started. And because both Naomi and Holden were making different decisions, I think that either maybe he didn't agree with, but Amos was not the kind of personality who voiced his disagreement with anything Naomi, because in my opinion, he was a very pragmatic person. Okay, this is the way it is. We find out later, due to his childhood, that that was kind of beat out of him, so to speak.
Right.
And once he got to be, I think, a grown man, and he had went through all of that abuse because then, but he was physically big then. We still don't know, at least I don't feel like I know what bonded him to Naomi in the first place. I don't think I ever got an answer to that, but be that as it may. One of my favorite episodes was when he went back to Baltimore, because we not only get the backstory of how he was, treated and bullied and everything, but he was also bullied by his quote brother, this gang leader guy, Right. And I found that really interesting. Their dynamic with Amos could snap him like a twig, but he still, like he did with Naomi, deferred to him. And this is when we first meet him in Baltimore. Once he goes to visit Clarissa Peaches, of which he did that only after Naomi left. Remember, Naomi went to find Philip.
Right.
And Amos did not agree with that decision. But I think that mentally started him on his trek and growth as well, because he was separated from her. Then we get the trip to Baltimore. Then we get him going to see Clarissa. And of course, by then, Marcos is bombing the earth. So, there's a big rock hits the prison. And all of a sudden, rather than following Naomi, he has to become a leader because he helps lead them out of that prison.
Right.
And I think that was the whole start of how his relationships with everybody on the Rocinante changed.
I love what you just said.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, I really, really like that. And, I was thinking about your task about the protomolecule and change and stuff.
Exactly.
And I think for me, personally, I could see maybe a little bit of the same arc once I began writing and making time for my writing, because
well said. Yeah.
Right. Because I used to think, I wrote poetry since the time I was 7, and that's what I did. And I never tried to write anything really long. But there came a point when I had been a lawyer, maybe, several years. Then I started with the writing. And it was not only a physical release, but it was like helping me with my what you and I have talked about before, the imposter syndrome. Yeah. I feel like an imposter. I'm doing this thing and this job and stuff, but I'm really not quite as good. No, that really helped me a lot. And so I think especially with Amos, I identified with that. I really liked how he interacted with Naomi, with Holden, with everyone once he got back on the ship after those trips to Baltimore.
What I love about what you said, when he's sitting there at the prison, there is no Naomi.
No.
So but he's in an unpredictable situation, and he either tries to follow someone there or reorganizes himself, just like the protomolecule did on Venus.
He did.
We got to take what
and
we
he
got
became
there
a leader.
Exactly.
And I think because of that whole mindset, and even after they got all the way, and I mean, that was some gruesome stuff they had to get all the way from wherever. She was way down in that prison, and they had to go all these levels up because she was Clarissa was deemed so dangerous. They had to go all these levels up, and once they got out there to see how everything so much of the earth had been battered with those asteroids and stuff, and what do I do now? Well, as a leader, I'm going to Baltimore. We're going to Baltimore.
And we're going to deal with
that
all
whole
the
trek. So
unpredictable mess that comes up between here and there.
And that's how I did with my writing.
No, I love that you drew those parallels, right? Because when you go into a new space,
I did have to trek through that. Yeah. So I really love Amos.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that too, because Amos to me became Naomi. What she was to him, he became for Clarissa.
He did.
She was obviously at some point they were kind of bonded to each other. He might have been a little bit lost, but so is Naomi, now that we know more of her backstory. And
Yeah.
maybe he was kind of like a replacement Philip that she didn't really even realize that she was creating
Totally.
in
Yeah, yeah.
Amos.
Totally.
And when
Mhm.
she left to go find Philip and
Mhm.
see what she could establish with him, Amos was kind of like, well, hell, what am I going to do now?
Mom, you left, man. What am I
Yeah.
supposed to
Yes.
do?
I think he decided to go back. Well, I think the main catalyst for that was when he got word that his foster mother, whoever she was, died.
Mm.
So he went back. But anyway, when he went to see Clarissa and saw how broken and lost she was, I feel like he kind of identified with that.
Absolutely.
And so he became her Naomi, tuck her under the wing, let her know she is worth something, even though she's done
Yes.
some bad stuff, like he probably did in his past.
Mm.
And obviously Naomi knows about it because she talked about it like first season, second season.
Mhm. She did.
And let her know she's worth something and say, okay, no, we're not leaving you. You're coming with me. You're going to be part of this crew. And like, I love that whole dynamic
Yeah.
of how he did it and how he said,
Yes.
yeah, you know, Holden, you gave me a second chance. And so you believe in that, right? Sure. Okay, Peaches is cool. Come on in. So,
Yes,
I
I
love
do
that whole
love
thing.
that too. I do
Yes.
love that too. But I also like the fact of when he found out that Holden had disarmed the nuke for I mean, when he found that out and when he was outside on the hall and he confronted Holden with that knowledge, in my opinion, I was sitting there thinking, to me, that showed his maturity of autonomous thinking, because he was able to articulate his from an emotional level, feeling about how he felt about that. And he wanted an explanation. When he was with Naomi, though, I mean, he just did not
just took
do
orders.
that. He never did. He never questioned anything.
What I love about
So,
what you're saying
I
there
like
is
that.
this thing we go through: follower, mentor, right? And Amos is able to, this that I experienced, Amos is able to confront Holden on the decision because of the mentoring work he's doing for Peaches,
Absolutely.
right? I've been in a context where I'm in charge now, and it feels different than when I was just doing the following. And, you know, we call it imposter syndrome. We're trying to get to that point where we feel like
Yes.
we're in charge or we're the master of it. But like, I suspect all of you would agree that from day one to now, that's what life's been, is follow, lead, follow, lead, follow, lead.
Mhm.
And, you know, that's the protomolecule
Well,
dance we do, if I could say
In
so.
my case, it's follow, lead, go your own way. Follow, go your own way. Follow, go your own way.
Yeah, I've been on that road before. Absolutely.
Because I'm
So
like,
I got a quick question about all this for Leandra, you know, as someone who is a trauma specialist, right?
I've actually been waiting to like pop in and be like, and
yeah. Well, this Amos arc of growing through healing others, growing through being a mentor for others, is there anything to that?
well, now you're stealing my thunder.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I apologize.
So I was gonna say, like, I think, and Sister Jane and I have talked about this, where like I kind of envisioned Amos at the beginning as like Jane from Firefly, where like you didn't really know what you were getting. It was kind of manic and a little aggressive and volatile. And then being someone who does a lot of work around trauma informed and stuff like that, like I think now when I look at his overall arc, like when we first meet him, his life has been kind of stripped away, which is what happens when we have trauma, right? Like the whole field gets burned away and you have to start over new. And so what happens is you do need someone to kind of give you that external stimuli about like, how am I supposed to act? What is normal? What is the
totally.
world? How am I supposed to like be in this space that's
Right.
new to me? And it usually is a pretty aggressive response, you know, because it is what it is. And then I think over time, you know, even when we're talking about substance use or we're talking about being someone who's healing and has post-traumatic growth, usually the first sign is that you're able to take care of something else, right? And so I think the idea that he is able, and I don't think Naomi's the only one. I think he does look to Holden for some of that. And that's why he even comes to Holden and says, I trust you to do what you think is right for you.
Mhm.
And I can't fathom what you think was right about that. Like, I'm having a hard time. Like normally I can, and so like he goes from someone who kind of loses his temper a lot and is aggressive to someone who's like, I've tried to take your perspective. And now we're going to float out here in space and I'm going to tell you I don't get it and you need to make it make sense. And just that whole relationship and the way that he deals with that and he builds those other relationships, it really is a slow burn post-traumatic growth train that I did not appreciate until I realized how much Sister J liked him. And I'm like, oh yeah, you know what, you're right. You know, like he isn't, and we also know that from Jane from Firefly. He ends up being the person that you think that he is. But I think some of that is, what do you do when life has changed so much against your control and you're unmoored? You find someone to hitch your line to. And that was Naomi. And then it was Holden.
Yeah.
And then he was able to grab Peaches and he was at Alex. And so I think even Bobby, like I think that's how we grow, is finding those support networks to get us through that. And he is not my favorite character, but his arc is by far the most fulfilling, I think.
What I love about what you just said is we know that there are people who don't find that someone.
Yeah.
Right. Either through the stigma of seeking out counseling or just not being in a family friendship context where that kind of resource is available. And one thing I love, this show's so insightful. It's when Naomi can't be Amos's leader anymore because she's deconstructing because of her son.
Yes.
That's when he actually starts to grow.
Absolutely.
Right. You know, and those kind of, wait a minute, are you telling me as a parent I gotta let go?
Yes, you
that's
do.
The vibe they're saying it. That's the gig. If you're gonna be a mentor for someone, managing that relationship where, okay, they've got to figure out how to do this on their own. Usually it doesn't play out that cognitively. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I need to go do this. You know, maybe need to find another mentor at the moment. I just love the way they let that hang. And we've actually never talked about that, right? We got, we talked about Naomi's leaving to find her son, but her destabilization, right? That was gone, and Amos had to find a way. And fortunately for him, there was something in him that wasn't going to let him isolate. That's the thing. When we isolate, when those moments that we can't get help. I mean, depression steals the very thing from you that you need to get out of it, which is seeking out someone else.
But I think the reason he did not, and that is because when he went back to Baltimore, and Sister Kay did remind me, that was because the woman who had raised him, he got word that she had died. But I think that was probably a big catalyst for him, other than Naomi going to find Philip, because when he returned to Baltimore, even though we got his little back hallucinations, but he was no longer a kid. He was a big, powerful man who had lived his adult life. Like, we get little glimpses of him saying he was probably a bouncer. He was probably worked for the mob as an enforcer, and he did all these other jobs. So he's a powerful person now. And so he doesn't have anything to fear. And that's why when he confronted his brother, the brother guy, he was just so matter of fact with it.
His approach to death was... And
he was different when he left Baltimore.
If I say his approach to death was refreshing, does that make me creepy?
No.
I mean, he just lived a life where human life was not worth much. And he'd been through everything anyone on the Rocinante thought they might ever encounter out in space. He lived he lived all of it through Baltimore.
And he was just so like,
God, that deadpan
nothing
rock.
Fazed him. That's what I liked about him the most. It just
And one of the greatest scenes of that episode was also on his way to Baltimore on that shuttle, when he was in that cargo, or in that room with those guys, and they were getting shaken down for their money by the little gang on the ship. And he just sat there and he's like, oh, you know what? One time I had to go fix the such and such and such and such, and I couldn't wear a suit and I had to hold my breath for 2 minutes. You know what that taught me? And I mean, you're thinking, what is he talking about? And so is the guy saying, what the heck are you saying?
Right.
Yeah.
That taught me that I could do a whole lot in 2 minutes.
In 2 minutes. That's right.
Say,
And and it was so good because he was just matter of fact, straight inflection, no inflection in his voice, just stating the fact. And by the way, that means that once we get to tussling and they start putting the kibosh on our little section here to stop us, I could put a whole lot of hurting on you in 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
I mean, but he was all matter of fact. And when it came time where he's like, okay, well, I'll be in the shower because I know that's where I'm going to have to confront these fools.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he didn't shy away from it. He didn't back. He just knew. He just did things because he knew human nature, how it had to be done. He knew it down to the brass tacks, and how he never shied away from that. And I just love that thread in his character throughout.
Amos didn't suffer no fools.
No, and he probably, if he was ever in the presence, whenever he was in the presence of people who hadn't been that close to death, it was just all noise and daydreams. You know what I'm saying? It's when it comes to the last moment, folks, I've been there. I know that world, and I can handle myself there.
But but the thing that was so cool about him too is it wasn't like he was ever Holden level hero, but he was. Yeah. He would never think of himself that way, but he always was taking up for someone who was being oppressed or abused, or even with Prax in that season too.
Yes.
When they were looking for the little girl, he took him aside and says, okay, now why? I mean, how are you treating her? Because I want to make sure before I commit to helping you.
Right.
Exactly.
That you're a good father and a good person to her. Mm-hmm. You know, he just had this way of getting down to the base level. And then in his mind, kind of like Holden does, figuring out what he believed. And that was the path he was going to go, whichever way that was. So.
What I love about what you just said is it kind of brings Holden and Amos to a similar level.
Oh, right? Absolutely.
And the difference is the lived life. How did you get to this point where you live a life that one of us might call heroic, right? Well, someone went through that, and someone lived with 8 genetic parents, you know, in a place where everybody loved them.
Full of love.
Yeah. Full of love. Yet they both come to a similar space. And I got to tell you, man, for the writers to be able to pull those two together and equivocate like that, and that's a lot of work. That is a lot of work.
It's a lot of skill. It shows skillful writing.
Over 5 seasons, too.
Yes, skillful writing.
Not right away.
Exactly.
And I will say there's 2 differences, though, even with those heroics. One, Amos does not question his decisions once he makes them.
No, he doesn't.
It makes it easier. And 2, Holden didn't ride through space on a toilet, so...
But I love what you just said. There's a great point there, right? What is it about Holden that makes him genuflect forever about every decision he makes? And was it the right one? Versus Amos that says, like, well, it was the only one if you're going to respect yourself, right? And I love the idea that there's a live life that gives rise to the morality you carry out, right? And you can have similar moralities for, different reasons. I'm in. And
I think Amos understands that what is my right decision isn't necessarily your right decision. And I'm just going to have to accept that. And so I think he does a better job of that towards the end than Holden does, where like, even though Holden's like, I don't owe you an explanation, he still struggles with it. Like you can tell he's still like he's always kind of like, So I think that there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like I think we all have decisions that we make and then later we're like, oh man, could I have done something different? But I do think that if I had someone rescuing me, I would want it to be Amos, who's like, I made a decision, I did what I had to do, and now we're going to keep going, and I'm going to shoot off into space. And
this is such a great conversation because the stakes for Amos were always life and death.
Always.
The stakes for Holden weren't always life and death. So how do you have a morality from this privileged position versus this life or death position, and if you end up in the same space, you're making a cosmic statement about morality, right? There's a place to be where you can respect the choices you make. You get there because the stakes are high. You get there because the stakes are low. But if you get
But I think that's also why Bobby tended to gravitate to Amos as opposed to Holden.
well, she's a killer. Straight up killer. I mean,
She's a Marine.
Exactly. She's a state-sanctioned killer. Let's be clear about it, right?
So it's just like you say, game recognized game, killer recognized killer.
Absolutely. The pseudo flirtation between the two of them in the last series was so well earned. Yes. It was just so well earned and so adult. And so, Sister K, we've come to you.
Well, it's hard for me to pick one specific scene or theme. I kind of look at all of the characters as a whole and how they kind of reinforced things that I've learned about myself through my life. Christian, I absolutely adore that character. I'm always drawn to her when she's on screen, the actress playing her. But that character in particular, I just can't take my eyes off of her. Whenever she's in a scene in a room, immediately that's where my eyes go, no matter if she's in that black outfit, the suit, or if she's in her beautiful leather red cape. Yes, her beautiful red cape.
Or that white coat, that winter coat.
That white outfit she had on the last episode. But I don't know, just something about her as being this unapologetically fierce, intelligent, no holds barred person that I feel like I always wish I was, but never felt like I was, but I probably am more like that than I think. But anyway, so and then like Drummer, I love Drummer because she started out as an unassuming kind of side character, I thought at first, but she ended up being this very strong, necessary leader that is not like Marcos's leadership, where he has to be the one giving the speech and the rah-rah. He has to have all eyes on him. She's more of this quiet, behind the scenes type of strength leadership that I feel like I kind of resonate with myself. And then Bobby, of course, kick butt Marine. And I mean, I just love how they have portrayed all of these women characters in the show, and it's not ever mentioned that they're women.
No,
it's not ever a thing that we're talking about different genders and what normally associated with those traits associated with women. But it did all kind of make me think, I have all facets of these women inside of me that I've always either admired or strived to become, or thought I wanted to become, or wanted to be near and never thought that I could. But it's all in there. It's all in there swirling around. We're not just one facet. We're not just one thing. And I feel like all these characters identify that way. Like Christian, she starts out, all we see of her is this tough as nails, will torture someone to get what she needs to get. She'll even backstab a friend to get the information she wants to get, to weasel her way to whatever she needs to do to save or to protect Earth. And as we get to the final season, you can tell that she has changed. Her whole ideals have changed. She now feels some regret for the things that she's done, because she now has seen what that action has done for the rest of the universe because of those actions and how Earth possibly have treated Belters. Like we say all the time, that we love that line that Drummer has, that all those years of oppression made Marcos inevitable.
Yep.
All of those years of being just concerned about this one world has ended up causing all of this other chaos in other places, or disregard for other people because they're not from your place. And I don't know, somehow that just sticks with me a lot and makes me think of, as we're talking about our world small as it is. It's a large world, but we're still small. We're all still down to the brass of what we want to do, which is love our families, be able to protect our families, and make a living to be able to provide. And that's what all of the Belters wanted. That's what people on Mars wanted. That's what people on Earth wanted. But because in the beginning of the show, we're at the viewpoint of Christian, where she's just concerned about Earth and everybody else is evil. Right. And that all changes by the end, because she realizes, no, they're the same. They're trying to make a living, take care of their family, and live life loving and caring for the people they care about, which is what she wanted too. And I love how that progressed for her, how that progressed with her. And it shows all the different facets that she has as a woman. Same with Drummer. We didn't really even know much about her. And then she ended up rising through the ranks. We got to see her backstory with her family and the family that she's created and made, which is not normal that we say in our society, but that was how they lived and how she was affected by her family breaking down because of the choices that she made to become this leader. So all those characters, I just feel like I can't pick just one, although I am drawn to a couple more than others, but all of them to me kind of taught me how that all of the things that I think about myself as the person I am today and the path that it took me to get to this feeling, the sentiment that I have, it kind of reminded me of all of those feelings of not being worthy, or like you said, imposter syndrome, or I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. I have no idea what the heck I'm doing, but I'm just going to do it and try to get by. It just kind of brought all of that stuff home. And I'm just like, I don't know. I think that's why I really connected with The Expanse so much. And having all of those different people come together, form their own families, form their own relationships. None of them are related by anything but the circumstance. Exactly. But they decided to stay and be a family with each other through that circumstance.
Man, this is why I love talking.
That's what we did too.
Exactly. You're absolutely right.
And that's so it kind of comes full circle because I don't know. I hate to say me, but as a kid, I was an only child. I read a lot. I would stay to myself a lot. I did become more social and talkative as I grew up, but I wasn't that way as a kid. And then being able to change and grow and learn and see that, I really love connecting with people. I really love making others feel like they're not alone, like I felt so many years in my room with my book. And so this community that we've been able to build with Sister Speak and being able to connect through fandom, connect through things like this, it has absolutely changed my perspective on so many things and given me such a richness to my life, which is why I love talking about what these types of shows mean to people, that somebody would just say, oh, it's just a TV show. No, it's not. It's not. It really isn't.
Yeah.
Well, Sister Speak Productions Ringgate is a pretty amazing place to be, man.
Protomolecule.
Exactly. What I love about what you just said is you pointed out something we haven't talked about before, is that the show kind of ends up morally equivocating Holden and Amos. But it does the same for Drummer and Chrissy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? And Chrissy comes from nothing but privilege. Right.
Yes.
And she wears it loud and proud in the best ways. Drummer will have nothing to do with any of that. But at the end of the day, these two incredibly informed, robust human beings reach an agreement that's informed by everything. To be in a space in your life where you're with someone who you feels gets everything the way you get everything, that's just straight up rare. Right. And then for us to be able to watch these two characters do it, and to watch Drummer with all of her comments, I will not be reasoned into my place.
Yes.
The world needs to hear that. I will not be reasoned back into my place. I just love it that she's saying that to Chrissy. I mean,
Yes.
that's just stunningly good writing. And I don't know, we can move on, but I gotta say, the writing in this stuff is stuff that I've just been surprised by how good it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I have found myself watching episodes saying, damn, I need to talk to the Expanse crew about this so I can figure out if I'm making sense here.
Yeah.
And I just love the way it all unfolds. It folds on itself. It gets more complicated, and it's like, sounds like life, you know.
It's also well acted. So the scene that you're talking
Yes.
about where, you know, drummer's like, I won't be reasons back in my place. Christian immediately, like, that actress is such a good job of being like, oh, she got me. She's right. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure someone in her life had probably done that to her, right? Like tried to like, oh, you should act more like a mother. No, I shouldn't. I should be who I am. And so I think that it also demonstrated that what I appreciate about the arc for Chrissy is that she didn't go from 0 to 60. Like, she doesn't end the series some sort of like resistant fighter. You know, she still has those habits of talking down to people, of not really fully taking their perspective. She's in a much better place. She's on her journey, but drummer's still able to be like, you're doing it again, girl. Like, don't stop. And she's okay with that. And I think we need more of that. We need more people who can recognize that, like, I have some biases and I have some habits that I need to break. And the only way we can do that is if we are both open to giving and receiving that kind of feedback. And those who have that, they have that trust in that relationship. I wouldn't say trust, but they have that.
That earned that mutual respect.
Yes.
Not
trust yet.
It's not rhetoric.
Respect.
It's earned, right? And let's make it clear, Chrissy ain't giving up that leather. No matter what happens, she is not going to give up her look, because that look is one of the best we've ever seen on TV, right? All right. So on that note, Leandra, it's your turn. Your favorite character line, whatever. You mean, you've already talked about Chrissy, but
I mean, of course it's Chrissy for me. I like I already said, I love that her character arc does go from someone who's like, I'm going to torture belters and I'm not going to think twice, to I'm going to resign this powerful position that's everything part of my identity because you're going to go blow up kids. Like when she stood up and she was like, I'm out. Like, I'm not going to be here for this. I was genuinely surprised by that level of like, and there was no gain. There was no agenda. I think she probably knew maybe that people would see her side of that and come back to her later, but like, she straight up was like, you can't, this is amoral. Like, this isn't. And so she gets there, and I love watching that. And I love the way she gets broken down and like put back in her place. She's put on Luna. She never stops doing her job though. She always keeps that integrity. She always keeps that. And I just love how she perseveres to that. And by having that path, she's able to get closer. So we always talk about, you know, change is, you know, there's not a problem at all. The earthers are doing their thing. The belters, that's their problem. To maybe there's a problem, but like, I don't really know what I would do about it. Like, you know, what do you expect me to do? Like, there's too many of you, and it is what it is. To, okay, change needs to happen. Like, we're going to sit here, we're going to do this, and we're going to prepare for it. And I'm going to do my best to work on my biases. And that whole journey for me was really hit on really well when she has that speech, which was not about the oppression that I think it could have been about. But when she says, you know, F good, like, it has to be better than good. And I think sometimes when we sit in our biases and we sit in these systems for too long, we get to a point where we're like, well, it's better than it used to be. Okay, well, now belters are at the table, or now I'm listening. Isn't that good enough? And it's not good enough. And we need something better. And she goes on to kind of talk about, you know, like, we're tired, we're going from moment to moment, which, you know, I talked about, I just feel like the whole world is right there right now. Like, we're tired and we need hope. And she recognized we need hope. I can give us that hope. We're going to have to stick with it. Just that whole, just her ability to, in those moments, put everything into perspective. And at the end, she's still who she is. You know, I'm a Tom girl. I don't really do jewelry. I will look like her because I want to be like her. But she is dressed to the nines because you are not going to get through that armor to her. And I think that it's just a really great, honest, realistic display of what can happen when leaders look around them and really am curious and open and take that in and say, okay, I'm here. Good is not good enough. We need better.
Love
it. Right. And I love that.
I suspect if we saw backstory scenes, there would be a scene with her in one of her amazing outfits talking to Holden before he went out and gave his speech saying, brother, that don't work. Okay. if you're gonna make a move, you got to be dressed for the move. Let me have one of my friends help you out. And Holden comes out looking like it, right? Because he didn't look like that at all the entire series. I'm making a joke, but I'm sure at some point we'll see a thing where Holden, that don't work. You've got to bring better game. But I love this. I love what you said about the slow play on her character, right? And she never stops being herself.
I think when she started changing was when that whole meeting with the Clarissa's father, and they ambushed her, and then the Rocinante rescued her, and she had to learn how to walk in those gravity boots. That was one of my favorite scenes. She was cussing and fussing the whole time, but she knew she had to do that.
Man, what you just said is the bottom
really
of it.
good.
She had to reorganize around gravity.
That's when she had to start.
That's the thing. They did it for her from the bottom because we don't know about gravity until we trip on the sidewalk, right?
Exactly.
And she's like, as Leandra said, she's sitting and living in her assumptions until boom. And let's make it clear, she didn't change because she thought about it and decided to change.
No,
she thought about it. The world changed. And she changed, and I love the slow burn of that. And we never made that point about the gravity boots. She had to start from the beginning.
She had to start from the bottom.
I love it.
But I think that whole ambush was so shocking to her because up to then, I mean, she was the woman in charge. Everyone looked to her, and she was able to manipulate the other politicians around her and stuff with the people that she knew and the information she could get on other people and stuff. But that whole ambush setup, first of all, it was really scary because, I didn't want them to off this character. But after that, though, that's when she started slowly changing. And also because she was no longer a leader. Yeah. That other leader, they nominated someone else. But to me, her having to learn how to operate in gravity and use those gravity boots was a metaphor for the change that she was going to have to make in order for her to make it physically.
She was still dressed to the nines in them gravity boots too.
She was too.
She never
They never changed who she was.
No,
and that,
exactly.
I feel like so many times we'll see a character art like that and suddenly they start dressing different or they start wearing the clothes of the people they're identifying with.
Right.
No, you are not going to find her in a space outfit. You are not. No. And I love because you can be who you are and change. And the better. It doesn't require that you're someone different. So I love that. And I love you keep bringing up like the slow burn, like that's sustainable change, right? It's change doesn't happen overnight. It has to be the slow burn. It's the long con. It has to be the long game. You appreciate that. Like
the long con.
The sting, baby. Absolutely.
You never know. Like that one thing you say has that ripple effect that changes things all the way down. Like you gotta hang in there. You gotta have hope. You gotta keep pushing.
That's this story, as we keep talking about, every time we talk about it, we're mining it deeper and we're getting more stuff out of it.
Yeah.
That whole scene where she was attacked, that just fell naturally out of the plot. I didn't feel any plot devices, but she finally learned what the stakes are for most people. Life or death.
Yeah.
Right. And it's in that moment where I need to learn how to walk again. Right. Because I've been living and dying in the world of words and power, not in the world of guns and abuse. And I actually never really felt like they were purposely putting her on a new arc for me. But that's exactly what they were doing. No,
and even later in maybe even episode 5 or 6, when she was practicing being in zero gravity and Bobby came and righted her up with those boots because she couldn't do that by herself. I thought that was good too.
That's
It's
that's
awesome
the
because Bobby had to learn how to walk on Earth.
Yes.
Yes.
Remember
Oh.
that?
Learn to walk in each
Yes.
other's shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's exactly what
there
it
you
was.
go.
You're
That's
right.
a tagline.
That's exactly
You're
what it
absolutely-
was.
Hashtag walking someone else's shoes. But that's exactly the case. They kept doing that to all these characters,
Mhm.
and it felt organic. It didn't feel forced.
Yes.
It just felt organic. And I absolutely, again, for me, I'm astonished when it's happening to me and I don't know it.
She didn't always, like when it came to the Earthers, like her genuine upset when she's in that field and she's like, I was here when we did this and we made this
Yes.
a crop and like we were gonna,
Yes.
So I thank you for putting that out there and saving me from having to.
He had some self-reflection. Marco didn't. He just
No,
went and
he
blamed it
never
on
did.
other people.
That's called
And the
He
world
never
has
did.
people in that. Well, when the protomolecule comes around, they blame the world, right? They don't look to see what they may have done in their lives that made this possible. And I'm not even going to pretend to estimate the percentages of the population either way.
Right.
What I love about this show is it's all on the table. You're all dealing with change, and here's the different ways that we see humans dealing with it. And I absolutely loved it. So we got a couple minutes here. I'm going to ask each of you just to say your favorite scene from this show. And since I'm springing this on you, your favorite scene. And since I'm springing this on you, I'll go first. You probably already know my favorite scene. It's the Miller Julie Mouse scene with the whole protomolecule background, where he has to take her to a certain death. He doesn't know what she is anymore, but he knows that whatever she is has to change or a whole bunch of people are going to die. So he actually leads her to this different, what he assumed would be a death, right? Crashing on Venus, right? And just talk about stakes, being at someone with that level of stakes and being an agent in that space instead of just following stuff. That's a story we need to see. I won't go too deep, but we have people in this culture dying in extreme pain for months, and we legally stripped their agency from them. And I thought that the way Miller's act of grace to say, baby, we got to go to Venus, right? This is just an act of grace I don't feel we talk about very much, and I just thought, damn, that's okay. Fantastic sci-fi visual. And there's just a lot of human pathos in there that I thought was stunning. And that was my favorite scene of the entire series.
I'll tell you what my favorite scene is, but it's kind of hard when you're talking about the whole series. That's 6 whole seasons. So
Yeah,
I
I'm
cannot.
with you.
So I cannot, remember maybe scenes in season 2. But so I'm going to say my favorite scene is when I saw Marcos go through the red ring and disintegrate.
Discover
Right
the red
before he
entities.
said, "Veer off, dummy." That's my favorite scene because I thought, oh, finally.
And I still love about that scene is that cheap special effect of him just freezing. And then all those red lines coming
Yes.
through
I
and
loved
erasing
it.
anything. It's like, wow, all they did was freeze stuff. And we feel like time and space changed. And he's gone. He's not part of our world anymore. Absolutely love it. Anyone else favorite scene?
I mean, Laconia. No, I'm joking.
Oh,
I'm joking.
oh.
I'm
I hope
joking.
that's a joke.
We know you're a Stephen King fan, but like, please.
No, let's Stephen King, and let's keep anyway.
Right. Gotcha.
I will say, so obviously I feel like there were some really great, like iconic, like Christian and drummer shaking hands, but a lot of the ones where I was like, were just the space battles, like the rail gun and like all of the, like, you just realize like how fast they're actually moving. They're hooking up to IVs. Like this is really good sci-fi, really exciting. And then also one of the most like pulse racing scenes was Miller just plopping down like he's on a balcony on that thing where they're trying to blow it up. And then the Naboo coming at him, like that whole thing was
That
gorgeous
was
shot.
good.
And then
Really good.
the ship that he's on, I guess, moves, but you think it's the Naboo moving. And
That's
it's like getting hit.
fantastic.
Like, how does this happen? Anyway,
No, we all went into
That
protomolecule
was
mode in that
good.
scene.
Yeah.
It's like we got to make
That
sense
was
of this,
great.
bring a bunch of stuff together. And that started it all.
yes.
Getting to
That's
that
when
Julie
you
Miles.
know it
love
has intelligence, like it has something going
Yes.
on. And I think that was some really, really good side. All the space scenes, the one with Holden and the wrench that kept hitting the thing, like
Yeah.
Oh,
they have
yeah.
some really, really
yes,
great-
that was a good one.
yeah. So
Intense.
I'm gonna just claim space.
I got you. Leandra's claiming space as she sits here cosplaying Chrissy. We're into feeling that power suit. How about you, Sister K?
Visually, it's Chrissy walking across the snow to see Holden's moms and dads in that red hooded coat.
Yeah.
Visually, I took my breath away. I loved it. But I'm trying to think of, I know there's been so many great conversations, and to me, I don't have a specific one, but it's just all the ones where they're together, where the crew of the Rocinante are together in eating, or just all together trying to figure out how they're gonna get past something, or coming together to help someone who's in trouble. I love scenes like that. And in this last season in particular, where Peaches made dinner and she wanted to sit down with everyone after she found out that she's basically going to die soon.
Yeah.
She wanted to make a memory, I think,
Yes.
for herself and for everyone else, and feel like I think she was starting to feel like she was part of the crew and part of the family. And so she kind of wanted to embody that. So I don't know, those kinds of scenes were my favorite, when they were all together and just chit-chatting and doing what a crew / family would do when they're
That was the
together.
Last Supper, because
Yeah.
when they had that meal, they all knew that they were going after Marcos. They were
Yeah.
going to chase after him, remember?
Yeah.
Rather than turn back. So that was like the Last Supper.
Oh, yay, boss man. We're going to war. Well, unfortunately, I think it's time to bring this fantastic conversation to a close. Expanse crew members, thank you so much for joining me in this fantastic conversation. Comic-Con International Educational Series crowd, thank you so much for tuning in. I think what we'll do now is give all of you the opportunity to tell the audience where they can find you on social media. And we'll start with Leandra.
You can find me on Twitter at Paris Leandra, at PARRIS Leandra.
Fantastic. How about you, Sister K?
You can search for Sister Speak and we will pop up everywhere. And for my personal Kelsey Williams, you can find me on Instagram.
Fantastic. Sister J.
What Sister K said.
Fantastic. I love it. The mythology continues, right? We have our own Expanse crew mythology. You can find me on Twitter at @dark_loops. You can find the Expanse Group podcast at Dark Loops Productions on YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in. So there it is, from all of us to all of you. Big hugs. And remember, be your best,
Protomolecule.
protomolecule. Bye-bye.